Good Thursday, everyone. This week's Parsha is Parsha's Vayakhel Pikudei. It can be found on page 516, and it basically reiterates what we did in Parsha's Truma Tzatzaveh. It's dealing with the beginning. Am I supposed to put in the heckling? Is there heckling? I'm not sure. Okay, but it's supposed to be dealing with the building of the Mishkan. This time we're actually building the Mishkan, and there's a lot of repetition from what we had in Truma Tzatzaveh, but a lot of the things are slightly different and teach us important messages as we'll explore as we're going along. So Rishon deals with the command of Moshe to build the Mishkan with the Jewish people, and it deals with their subsequent donations as a result of that command. But then we seemingly jump completely off track right at the beginning and go on to Shabbos, which isn't that surprising because in previous Parshas, we've had actually the Mishkan followed by Shabbos. So we see that there's clear correlation between Shabbos and the Mishkan. That on the one hand, we've got the Mishkan followed by Shabbos, and here we have Shabbos followed by the creation of the Mishkan. The Sfas Emes though asks, why do we do it in the other order? Is Shabbos supposed to be the conclusion of the Mishkan, or is it supposed to be the introduction to the Mishkan? In the last few Parshas, we've seen the Mishkan being built and then Shabbos. And in this week's Parsha, we see Shabbos and then the building of the Mishkan. So which way round is it? So he says, it depends. Are you talking about before the sin or after the sin of the golden calf? Before the sin of the golden calf, the Jewish people are on a very high level and therefore could manifest Hashem very easily in this world just with all of their behavior. And therefore they can start building the Mishkan straight away without any reference to Shabbos. Once we're after the sin, we drop dramatically in our level, and therefore we now need Shabbos to, if you like, supercharge us spiritually. And once we've been supercharged by Shabbos, then we'll have the ability to manifest Hashem's presence in this world. Sheni can be found on page 520. Right at the top, and it deals with the personalities that are going to build the Mishkan, and it starts with the building of the Mishkan, followed by the Kalim, followed by the vessels. Now, as we pointed out a couple of weeks ago as well, the order here is switched around. In Parshat Truma Tzatzaveh, we start off with the creation of the vessels, the Aron, and then the other vessels, and only then do we create the actual Mishkan itself. Here we create the Mishkan, then we create the other vessels, and then we get to, at the end, we arrive at the Aron. Now, why is that? So we explained that the concept is that Moshe, when he was presenting his picture of the Mishkan, was talking top down. He was talking about what the purpose of the Mishkan is. And in his world, where you're thinking about purpose, then purpose turns into the unfolding of that which needs to create the purpose. Here, when we're talking about Bezalel actually creating the Mishkan, we're dealing with a completely different approach to how to create something, which is you have to look at your resources, you have to look at who you have and what you have, and then gradually, of course you have to end up at the same purpose, but you have to look at what you have and gradually work up towards that purpose, as opposed to starting from top down, from purpose downwards. We start off with our resources, with our talents, our abilities, and only then do we get to the purpose, which is the Mishkan, which is the Aron, which is the center point of the Mishkan. Shlishi can be found on page 524 at the bottom, and it's still dealing with the vessels, the creation of the vessels in the Mishkan. Here, with one of the vessels we speak about, amongst others, is the menorah. Now, the menorah was interesting because the way the menorah was made was that Moshe was shown what the menorah was. He went and tried to make it. He couldn't make it. Then he went up again, saw the menorah again. Hashem showed it to him again. He went down, couldn't make it. Now, we understand why he found it difficult, because Moshe was dealing with the kind of with the spiritual elements of the menorah, and trying to translate them into a physical form is quite difficult. Imagine for a second if you try to enjoy a sunset by reading the equations of the light that was produced as a result of a sunset. By reading the equations, you can't have the enjoyment of the sunset. You can't feel the presence. So too, when Moshe was seeing the spirituality embedded into the menorah, he couldn't translate that into physicality. He found it difficult. So what happened? He took a piece of gold. Hashem told him, "All right, fine. Take a piece of gold, throw it in the fire, and out pops the menorah." Why did we have to drive him mad, but going through this whole process, up, down, see it, you can't do it, you see it, you can't do it? And the answer teaches a very powerful principle in Jewish growth. Sometimes Hashem asks us to do things which are very, very difficult, which are almost impossible. But the key is that we have to start. Once we start, Hashem will finish. Rabbi is on page 526. Yes, Gideon and Perry, I am hurrying as much as I can. Please excuse me. On page 526, we deal with some of the vessels that we're going to create in the temple, and one of the things that we focus on is something called the kior. Now, the kior is the basin with which the Kohanim wash their hands, which is a very enigmatic vessel because it was created out of the mirrors that the women used in Mitzrayim. How did they use these mirrors? So they, at the point where the decree of death was put on all of the male children, the men basically gave up hope. Men generally give up hope a little bit more easily. And therefore they retreated, if you like, into the fields, into a state of depression. The women took things into their own hands and came into the field with these mirrors, put the mirrors in front of them and their husband, and they said, Rashi says, Ani na'e mimcha. I am more beautiful than you. Seemingly translated, I am more beautiful than you, which is odd. The main thing about it, which is odd, is the fact that why would they both need to be seen in the mirror? The husband can see the wife, so she should just stand next to the mirror, show the husband himself in the mirror, because we're talking about comparative beauty, and then she'll say, look, compare me to you, I'm more beautiful than you. Why do they both need to be seen together from the husband's perspective in the mirror? So I once had an answer from Rav Leuchter, a beautiful answer. He said the following, he said, that's not what we've mistranslated. What Rashi was saying. We translated it Ani na'e mimcha. I am more beautiful from you, meaning I am more beautiful than you. But you could read it in the following way: Ani na'e mimcha. I am beautiful as a result of you, and it communicates an incredibly important message in Jewish marriage, which is often we can see marriage as two individuals who are complete within themselves coming together to create a wonderful partnership. That's not how we see it in Torah. In Judaism, we see it that I am incomplete without you, and you are incomplete without me. So we only can be complete together. So the women were saying to their husbands, you have to understand, Ani na'e mimcha, my beauty, my completeness, my holiness comes from you, and yours comes from me. We need to be together. We can't break apart at this time of the Jewish people's needs. Chamishi can be found on page 532. We're now entering into Parsha's Pikudei, the second of the double parashas this week, and we're dealing with the Pikudei Kohen Gadol. We're dealing with the clothes of the Kohen Gadol. Two of those garments always have to be together. You always have the choshen, which is the breastplate worn on the heart of the Kohen Gadol, and the ephod, the robes of the Kohen Gadol. And they always have to be together. Why do they always have to be together? So there's a beautiful idea here from the Degel Machane Ephraim. He says that the choshen represents the heart of a human being because it rests on the heart. The ephod, if you take the gematria of ephod, that's specially for Jason, if you take the gematria of the word ephod, the numerical value, you'll see it equates to the word peh, which means mouth. So the Dagel Machane Ephraim says that a person needs to live with his heart and his mouth in sync. You shouldn't behave, and the mouth being the external expression, the way you position yourself towards the world, and the heart being what's going on internally. So you shouldn't behave one way and essentially be two-faced, thinking something different inside. You shouldn't behave, your heart and your mouth should be as one, so the choshen and the ephod should always be together. Shishi is on page 534. And it deals with the end of the Mishkan, essentially, the end of the building of the Mishkan. And Moshe, at this point, blesses the Jewish people. He blesses the people that made the Mishkan. Now, what did he bless them with? He didn't bless them with wealth, and he didn't bless them with all types of good things, and he didn't bless them with saying thank you. He blessed them with that Hashem's presence should be manifest as a result of your actions. And that is a truly Jewish blessing. We're not just interested in you having material success or you having physical success. We're interested in all of the things that we do are manifest the godly presence in this world. Shavi finishes off the book of Shemot, and it is on page 536. We finish the book of Shemot with the Hashem's presence filling the Mishkan. And there's a very important message to be learned, to be gleaned from this episode, which is, it's very relevant for today. We relate to crises in terms of, we're in a crisis, we turn to Hashem, Hashem will help us out of the crisis. If that was the case, then the book of the Exodus, the book of Shemot, should end in Parshat B'Shalach. Because we got out of Egypt at that point, now we're on to the next book. But you see there's one process here which doesn't end with the Exodus from Egypt. It doesn't end that Hashem saw us in Egypt, he thought, oh gosh, the Jewish people are in Egypt, better get them out quickly. That's not what happened. Hashem put us in Egypt in the first place to teach us something, to develop us in a certain way, so that we could understand ourselves, so that we could understand our godly identity, that we're Hashem's nation, that we're here to bring Hashem's presence into the world. That is the end of the process. We go through a process of Mitzrayim, of being in Egypt, where Hashem prepares us for being that godly nation. And at the end of the book of Shemot, we reach the pinnacle where through our actions, where through our spirituality, Hashem becomes manifest in this world. It's very easy to look at today's crisis and say, just get me out of here, without asking ourselves the very important questions of, what is Hashem trying to teach us through this time?